Hello, thank you very much for coming, and I'm sorry I don't speak Russian. I didn't even not understand the introduction, and but I would like to start with. Is it too loud or is it okay? Huh? It's okay. Yes. So I would like to start with what we did as an exhibition in Venice during the Biennale of Contemporary Art in 2007, which we called Art Tempo. And Art Tempo came from a concept that the time itself is also an artist. The time itself that transforms the things and that changes the things. And sometimes, like real old walls, we could look at it like a beautiful abstract painting. And in this exhibition, I put things of old walls next to very contemporary art, and this very expensive art was like very expensive, and the walls you can have anywhere where you want, or a beautiful stone that's found, that's made million years ago by nature, it could be next to a wonderful piece of sculpture. And as a symbol of this exhibition, so we asked the artist El Anetsui to make a work, and El Anetsui is an African artist from Ghana, and I think it's always important when art also serves. And he was an artist who worked at other things, but in his villages in Ghana, people were starving. You know, they had no money, no work, no food, and he invented art that took a lot of labor to make these people work. And there were old factories of beer, and from the leftover of the tins which were on piles there, he said we knit it together, and from this lead, he made like this fabulous textile, and it was quite high. It was like 40 meters by 20. You know, to feel the size of it, it's like 4 times the size of this. But what I like very much about it, so it's made by time. It's made to throw away, and that somebody else, an artist can make from what you throw away, you can make art. And it's kind of an alchemistic idea that from lead you make gold, but it looks like very rich, fabulous textile, and it's just made from things you throw away from a beer tip. And I just started with this because I think all my life I had an enormous appreciation for old things and antique things and nature, what nature made itself, which I mixed with art, and which I wanted to be surrounded me in my daily life, and also in a way of life, living with art, because I think living with art is very important. And one may also of installing houses and doing architecture is all about proportions of architecture, and also a lot of sacred proportions, and using as much as possible local materials, even goes so far that even using the local earth to make walls. And all this doesn't exclude a very luxurious life as well. So it's a very strange mixture, but it's very spontaneous. I don't do it to create a style or to make a style. It's just the way I like it profoundly, and I think it's good for evolution, and I think it's good for the spirit, and I think it's something I like to share with others. So we continue. So here you see, because I remember when I asked the mayor of Venice, can I have this palace? He said yes, but only the grounds are not this floor, because this floor is not restored yet. And I said, this is exactly what I need. It's not restored. Nothing is done to be beautiful. The walls as they are, and you can look at it as they're made by time. It's art made by time, which is then a mixture, with a fantastic piece of Boris, Graubner, Fontana, César, like a César agglomeration of raw material, which he made in the 50s, which was very important. Already in the 50s, these artists realized that we have to do with things we throw away. Like today, in the 21st century, there's no room anymore to throw away. The 20th century was a century you make, you use, it's used, you throw away, you make new, you use, you throw away. Today there's no place anymore to throw away. So I think living with old things today is much more actual than always living only with new things. And artists always feel these things almost 50 years before science and industry realizes it. And there, next to that it's a miskiln of an oven of the 12th century Khmer. It also looks like contemporary art. So I think for me it's very important that you don't even realize when something is made. That's a work by Tapies, also throwaway zinc. a buri, again on this old wall made by time. And so this is to show you a little bit this. But then besides that, we made the room totally pure, because I think in life it's important. I think it's that you have variation in a house. Also the way you want to, your interest. I think it's not necessary that you say, I decide now I want everything art tempo, or I have to decide I want everything minimal art, very square and very wide. I think sometimes you love this minimal and very pure and with almost nothing, but sometimes as a human being, the same human being can also love a more warmer space, or a more space where the time did leave its traces. And I think it's always important for me as well. We live today in the 21st century, where it's a century as a world civilization. It's like East meets West, old meets new, and this is an early figure of a Lohan. And a Lohan is not a Buddha. He's a human being who achieved enlightenment, as close as you can get it. And it dates from the 13th century, 1260 something, which we put together in a room with paintings by Opalka. I don't know if some of you know Opalka. He was always writing. In 1965, he started putting number one on a black canvas, and every painting he finished, he added 1% of white till the end of his. He only died like not so long ago, 1 month ago. Then he once was writing like white on white, and he achieved like 5 million and something. So all his lifetime, it's a conceptual, very important. It's like a meditation he did. But while he was writing, he was also speaking. It was all registered, and his voice was here, but it had nothing to do with Buddhist, because he's definitely not a Buddhist. But I found very interesting this confrontation between this, what was not meant to be Buddhist, and to bring together with this Buddhist Lohan figure, and you felt something in common. And then I think the science, knowledge is very important. This is a painting I brought here of Piero Pacioli. He was a monk. It dates from 1500, 1500. And he's explaining to his students all about polyeders, all about the proportion. And it means all about proportion of human being in cosmos. And in our mind, human mind, science, physics knows today that we recognize in our brains, what are vertical lines and what are horizontal lines, also in feeling. And our brains realize once these two lines are in perfect harmony, like the golden section, like 1.618 mathematically, we receive a kind of sentiment of peace and harmony. And this is extraordinary that somebody already like 1,000 years ago, they discovered this. And that's why I think for those who study architecture, I think there's a great need today to learn all the sacred proportions of the Egyptians, of the Romanesque period, of the Renaissance, because it all comes back to the same thing, and you find it back in nature, in so many things. And I think it's very important that we feel very good in a house. I think the main thing, if people ask you, can you do something for my house, is to make the people happy in the house. I think is the main thing, and it's to create harmony, and that they discover themselves, and that they find a different dimension themselves they didn't even know before. It's not good, I think, you have to go and live in a house that the decorator made, and you have to go and live in that house. I think as a decorator or as an architect, I think you have to find the right harmony between making something that is on its own beautiful, but that is also the portrait of the people living in it. I think the architecture itself is like a skeleton. I think it could belong very much to the place where it's built, and to the time when it's built. But then, once you start furnishing it, this should be this relationship, I think. And not just for exterior wealth, but for more a deeper emotional expression and message. This was then in between the Art Tempo exhibition in Venice and the next exhibition in Venice was Infinitum, which is the beauty, of the non-finished. that really infinity is in the non-finished, because we as human beings, we cannot do, perfection does not exist. If we think perfection exists, we are frustrated, we can never achieve it or get damaged or it's never that. So I think leaving space enough for the imperfection, I think is very interesting. And sometimes you can see in the non-finished, there is infinity or there's a divine. And but to study this, you need to go through academy or to workmanship, and that's why we did the exhibition Academia in l'École des Beaux-Arts in Paris, which was a school for all artists, and where you see models of all kinds of periods, and where you have this message of artists, made out of all of which, and this contradiction and confrontation, because I personally like very much the confrontation with art, because I think good art lives on its own, and it has a character, it has a soul, and it's like bringing lots of beautiful, fantastic people together around the table. You create a fantastic conversation, and I think it's the same way it's good to bring art together. They make each other stronger. You understand one piece through the other one, and so on. So 1 + 1 is much more than 2, and like with two human beings, it can be as well. That's also academia. You see, it's heads all out. It's photography, Asiatic art, Oriental art, Gothic art. And then, this is Fontana. This was the beginning at the entrance of Infinitum in Venice. Fontana plays a very important role in my life. I was only 21 when I bought the first Fontana. I was just touched by it, that in the beginning I didn't even understand it, because it took me quite a while before you realize why this art is so important. But and one sees it. But he was like, after in the late 50s, when people went on the moon, after the big destructions of all the wars, the bomb of Hiroshima, so everything was destroyed. He said, what can we still paint? We have to start from nothing. We have to find an extra dimension. So he was before his canvas, and he just opened the canvas. He said, and I create an endless void, an endless void, and out of this void everything will be reborn. And so like this is like naturas he made. It's like new cosmic elements, like new moons, and like one gesture of human being is like the first gesture of a human being to give birth. So you hurt as well to give birth. It's a hurt and healing process, and which is a very vital thing that comes back in all civilizations and all that. And I think you will see this in my work also very much. Like, again, this is also something that as a human being, it's not like I want to cut it in half and it should be perfect. It just cuts it like it comes, and it's something you can only do once. You can never repeat it. It's like there's a Japanese expression which is say ishigo ishie. It means every moment is unique. There's a lot of things in life you could never do twice. You can do it once, and like making this art as well. And I think accepting this gives a very peaceful and how would I say? I think it's important to accept that a lot of things in life have one direction. You can only do them once. And this is compared here with a painting by Shiraga. Shiraga for me, is the most important Japanese artist of the 20th century. This picture is made in the 80s, but he in 1947, after also the same concept from Japan. In the beginning, they didn't know each other, Fontana, Shiraga. After the bomb of Hiroshima, after total destruction, he said, we have to start from nothing. We have to forget all the Japanese tradition. He took his own body, turned it in the mud, and then and they were filming it like was a first performance artist, to say we have to start from nothing. And then with his painting, he would put paint on. He would meditate on a big canvas till it was one with this deep emptiness. And to get out of this deep meditation, he would just paint like in one gesture. That's how this is existed. And I personally think that you feel the power and no hesitation, and it's like a human being is almost like a brush of cosmic power. There's no ego in it. And I think he was from a Japanese samurai family. And I think it's very important that in some of this kind of art, you have not to be yourself. You have to be one from something very big and be extremely free and free of yourself as well, to be able to create this. And so that there are old cupboards which we left as they are, with even indications, and it's a little study of Picasso, Francois Ryman. There is, we made a kind of a labyrinth in Wabi style, a totally Japanese concept, but we did use nothing Japanese in the elements. It was made in Venice, so we used the bricoli, the wood that they throw away, because where you see the canals, all the bricoli is all these woods, and they now replace them all with plastic. It's terrible. And of those, we made the pillows, which they call tokonobashi, and just platforms. And the platforms are tokonomas, and toko means platform, and ma is the framed emptiness. So it's to give to the emptiness a different quality. And then I put objects which were with the same mentality, like this small painting by Rothko, and then 2 ceramic bowls by Raku. Raku is the most important Japanese potter, and he makes those bowls for tea ceremony. They have a very high value, because he is the one who's capable to make the most interesting empty space. So they speak more about what you don't see, what you feel, and you don't see. What's the inside of it, the empty space of the bowl in Raku bowls is of such a high quality. That's why Japanese people really appreciate this at a very high level, and they consider it more important than painting or sculpture. You see, and this is a Japanese painter who is really painting out of freedom with stones. Is this painting? It's in the house of my son, not of Boris, another one. And that's at another tokonoma in Venice. And now, at the moment, we have an exhibition on, which is the exhibition Tra. And Tra means in between. It comes out of this concept of Ma, the Ma, because Japanese have words for it. But I think once you read about it, you think about it, it's very important, I think, for me, that with framing things, there's a kind of emptiness, but this emptiness can have so many different qualities. It depends the frame. And all this exhibition in Venice is about that, about things you feel, but you don't see them. And that's why Nicola Nimrodi, it's a Belgian artist from Italian origin, he made a concept of this. It's only an object like this size, but he created like steps to an emptiness, and the picture message doesn't show it, but really it's amazing. It's like there is something very special happening inside. And that's Anselmo. There are very heavy stones on a wall, and you feel the force of gravity. There's something. Perhaps on the picture again it's more difficult than in reality, but if you see these big stones, they're hanging, and there is this empty space is full of energy of gravity. And there you see it's an invisible object of Giacometti. That's where you come in the exhibition. So it's Giacometti, this figure holds the invisible object. And there's a painting by Michael Bormans, who he feels the energy of the grounds. That's by Uker. It's on the top floor. He made this after the commemoration of the Kobe earthquake, where people just go away. It's not stable. It hangs on the ceiling, and it's all the chairs and nails, and it's hurt, and it's all binded with textile. Like it's also people have been very hurt, but they healed again, and other people are helping them, and they go away for a new life. There's also, this is like first writing. It's a Babylonian script, which is a cuneiform script. It's like little nails. It's the first known writing, about 600 BC, and that's a cushion of Uker, where with he had a child that died, and he could not express himself. He didn't find the words for it, and he said, "I just did put the nails in that cushion. These were the words I could not find to express myself." And the painting is hardly to see. It's like a Opalka, the last work before he started with the numbers in 1965. And this is where I started when I was 21. I was studying, and I thought I was already collecting when I was 14. I went on buying trips, and I think I have to make a business or an industry or some whatever to be a good collector. And and then I went to the army, but I asked everybody in the army, is there nothing to sell and all at your grandmother or whatever? And I did buy so well in the army, beautiful paintings and silver and things. I said, I think I have to become an art dealer and a collector in the same time. And then I never wanted to have a shop, because I like too much the things, what I do. I'm very passionate about everything I buy, and I just want to live with it. And I never wanted the feeling that I want to put it in a shop. So I wanted an old house to restore, a very old house, and then my mother discovered this little old street of dates from 1500 till later, but most of the houses were from 1500 to 1600. And I wanted to buy one or two houses and I had to buy the old street, but it was not only that, nothing. And I must say I had the courage then to do it, and worked very, very hard to realize it all in 18 years restoring to this place. But it was very extraordinary. And there I learned a lot, which I had to use later in my work, because my love for these old walls, old beams, and still also at the same time love for contemporary art. And I think this combination made it very timeless, and I think many people and other collectors who loved this very much, and very quickly we had people from all over the world, and that's how it all has been growing. And because this was the house, our house, when we lived in this old street, and this room is made in I think when Boris was just born, so it's in 1974, 75 something. So one would say made today, and it's with a contemporary painting by Gefferijn, a Gothic table, a Khmer bust, and these vases in the front, they're 12th century Khmer. They're also, it's a table I specially designed those days for that room, the sofa as well, and then the old planches are the original one. They're that white. They were totally rotten. Everybody would say, just throw them away. But we try to repair them because this love for really old things. And the ceiling is the original one from the 16th century. And that's a room we have now in the castle, where you feel the style, but I never do it to have a style, but I can recognize this as a kind of a style that is ours. There's this mixture of things that come from nature. There's a 16th century Japanese screen of very cosmic power. Is the dragon that comes out of the heaven, but it's like action painting. For me, it's like action painting, like American action painting, but from the 16th century. And that's why I love it so much. And there's a chair from the 20th century, and there's always fireplace, because I think fireplace is very important. It's very important for the spirit as well, to make fire. It purifies the air, and it's very good for the soul, I think, and to look at it. And the walls, when we discovered this room, I bought the castle, so you'll see a little bit further, this place, it's a medieval castle. Where the towers are still from, it exists already in 1108, but it has been transformed all the time, and it's quite severe from this side, but that's the north part, and then the south, that's inside, and there's the library room, okay, that's the south part. So the south part was transformed in 1720, with big windows and a view on a beautiful park, and we see the sunrise and the sunset, and I must say this is a very inspiring place, because it has lived almost 1,000 years, and we live there, and we have meetings there, and I love to organize a week with wonderful people who are very inspiring, like scientists or musicians or of different disciplines, and bring them together, even people who don't know each other but who become friends, and really to get new ideas and how we can build on a new society. I think because today, I think we live in a very, very interesting period. I think a lot of things go bad, but like a lot of old values are not stable anymore. People that don't work anymore. But in history, always when some things goes down, there's always something else growing. And I think it's very important to belong to that period that grows, and to find what is really where you can help to give a positive evolution to the world. So that's my office in the castle. You know, like also restoring this castle. This was the 19th century room with 19th century ceiling, and the wallpaper we discovered, and this parquet floor was not there anymore, but we made it in our workshops. And that's more like a collector's room where you have the old pictures. I love the minimal, but I must say I love luxury as well, and I love beautiful objects of all periods, and I think they express also a fantastic time, and they create a fantastic warmth, and that was very nice because you see the blue and white jug, which I discovered in a collection, and then some collector said, "Oh, I believe it's right because this model does not exist, it's so rare." And I did everything to find in books, and after the end I found the painting where it was painted on, with the faults and all that. And these are all nice little stories. So in the life of an art dealer, I can continue endlessly. But this is our library room. We call the library, it's more like a collector's room, like things you collect a whole lifetime. You bring them all together, and it creates an extremely warm atmosphere, you know. And that's our chimney, where symbolic in the middle we have a fontana, which is for me also very important, is this extra dimension. It's an early fontana, 1958. And then on the left, but I think this photo is reversed, but it's normally in the Zung, the square piece is on the left, and the heaven and the P is on the right, because the Zung resembles Earth, and also in China, in Kabbalistic knowledge, the square is always a manifestation of earthly feeling of God on earth, and the circle is the heaven, is the cosmos, you know, the endless. And for me, the three things together is like the earth, and you live on the earth, and you have, and then the fontana is like searching for, like a ladder to search an extra dimension, and to the cosmic feeling, the heaven. So it's not just for decorative. A lot of things are, as always, have a deeper sense, and I think the more I evolve in this, in my task, or whatever one says, or in my profession, I think it's very important that things have a deeper sense. But sometimes you feel the deeper sense without. Oh no, I'm sorry, got the wrong. Without knowing, and sometimes you know afterwards. Like I think a lot of painters, they paint something and they don't know what they do, and they look at it once it's finished. And there we create, I think, again, this mixture between two worlds. When we bought the castle, it was full of trees and lots of little flowers, yellow and pink and red. So we took just everything out on one side, and all the flowers we put together in the wall garden, where we have lots of flowers to go and cut. But in the landscape, I really love this extremely serene silence, and these are big rhododendrons, and they're cut like mountains. It's like our Zen garden, but it's in a bigger scale. The grass is like the sand, you know, and you see the little path in it, which we're just the lawn we take there, which goes in the forest for a very nice walk, and then there will be very high beechwood hedges. And then to go, then you could say you live in this beautiful big place, and still this is a wonderful little room, a little tea house I have far in the park, where this little path you just so you can walk to, and this is made with earth and wood I just found in the park, and I made together with a Japanese architect, Tatsuro Miki, on the rules and the principles of a Japanese tea house. It's very small. There's a little fireplace in it, like this, but it's just an amazing place to go and sit. And I think that's why I wanted to show this to you, that you saw this sometimes very great luxury and gold and gilt, which is nice when you use it in the right way. But this does not exclude that something like this is also fabulous, and sometimes you have the most beautiful, beautiful moments of your life in it, or you can talk to somebody on a very profound way, and I think it's very important to be very close to Earth as well, and this is the opposite of sophistication, but it's perhaps also the ultimate sophistication, because the proportions is very important. It's all sacred proportions. Everything has a reason, and it's done. The walls are made with local earth and glue together, and it gets the most fantastic color. And and this little light is only a light big like that, a hole in the roof, and the light turns around there. And that's in the attic room in the castle. So where we also have this room where we can look films, but this is also kind of a tokonoma, toko platform of empty space, huh? Where you can sit in the fireplace. You can see also our dog. But it's really a search for serenity, silence, and is something very strong and not so deep. It is more than it shows. That's in another house, not in a house. It's like a bathhouse in that style, this Wabi style. Wabi style comes from Wabi Sabi, and Wabi is a search for harmony, and Sabi is with very poor, very simple things. And it was kind of a tradition in the Japanese, the imperial palace. The emperor would also have his tea house in a Wabi style to get out of this gold and gilded palace to be reconnected with earthy feelings. And I think more than ever we need this today. And I know all the clients and friends who have a room in this spirit, they just adore it. And it's amazing how it gives another dimension, another connection, and but it should not be too Japanese. It's a Japanese principle, but we always use a local material. Like this is also made with local stones and from the area. It is local earth on the wall. And we even did put a contemporary paint work by Günter Uecker instead of a Japanese work, because otherwise it would be too much like a Japanese reproduction of a house, and it would lose its universal power. I think this is more done to have this deep connection, and I think today in a world which is very plastic and very we need it more than ever, I think. That's another room we made in an orgy. It's also the reuse. Sometimes you can reuse old material like contemporary art. It's not like faking something, but I just love this door with these old colors. It's in a new built house. The beams we used for pulling the concrete, it's as a use. Nothing is done just for decoration. Walls are done with real chalk, and the floor as well, real lime, real natural materials. And you see even a fantastic Basquiat, which looks like, it doesn't look like expensive, it just looks like it's some graffiti. And I think that is a style I really love to live with personally. And that's a pool house we made somewhere in Germany. We bought a huge barn, which we put on that spot. So the barn was already dismounted for a motorway or for whatever. So we brought it back and made the big modern windows, also the just earthy floors, and it's a pool house. So it's really a room to relax after the swimming, but it's quite a nice size, I must say. That's in our place. We have an industrial building besides the castle, about 4 kilometers from where we live. We have our workshop, and we make a museum and of the collection, and there's also a gallery, and it's in an old industrial building. It's like in all these buildings. It's an old area we bought little by little in the last 15 years, and we're going to do there a very interesting project, I think. Like this is coming. We work with several architects, so it looks like a little village. It is like a little town in the village, and Stefan Beel, Hussein Goris, like these old buildings there, make them bigger than those towers. And in the middle, we just made very simple buildings, where we made just the windows where we needed them to have the best view, to have the sun, to have the you know, where we need it for. Voilà. And that's in the industrial building, which we leave as it is because I think it's so beautiful. When we bought the place, it was full of big iron citerns to keep malt to make beer. So we made it all empty, throw everything away what we didn't need, and we just kept the skeleton of this building. And I love architectural, industrial architecture, because it's not made to be beautiful. It's just made by engineers. It's made to be just solid. It's always a wonderful sense of proportions, and I love the feeling of, because it's so real. You know, it's not super. It's deep going in. And yes, you see there we had some music, a concert one day in that room, and that's another place. This is where the big towers are standing. It's huge, solid concrete columns, but they become like a temple once you give it another use. Huh? And we have a collection of old Varavati sculpture there, which is 6th century Buddhist figures. These were the first monks that went out of India in the 6th century, where religion and politics became one, and it was very dogmatic. And they say we want to preach pure life, to get enlightenment, and we don't want to be gods. We just want to be human beings at a higher level. And a lot of them were killed and they were escaped. They were in the northern Thailand, and it's a very rare collection. I think there's the only collection of 6 pieces like that in the world. You know. It's really the beginning of Zen philosophy, absolutely beginning. And then we have one building, which is a central building where all the grains arrived. And I think, how much shall we do to all this industrial complex to give it new spirit of life? And then we thought we would like to make it like a chapel of universal peace and knowledge. And then we thought about several artists, and our choice came to Anish Kapoor. And then we had this piece, which is installed in 1999 for the year 2000, like a present for universal peace, so people can come and visit it. And we have this fantastic couple by Anish Kapoor in one room, and it's amazing. It's like the fullness of emptiness here, and you feel it physically and spiritually. And even children love it. They see it, and there's an immense sound, and there's something like you soaked in it, or some people are scared of it as well. But I think some great art is also a physical experience, and I like that very much. Thank you.